I found out just how bad things were on a Tuesday morning in March when my bank card was declined at the grocery store. I stood there, a line forming behind me, as the cashier swiped my card a second time. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Insufficient funds." My cheeks burned as I mumbled an apology and stepped aside, leaving $147 worth of groceries on the conveyor belt. My name is Sarah Mitchell, 39, elementary school teacher in Portland. I'd been married to Kevin for 11 years when our life collapsed, not with a bang, but with a quiet beep from a card reader. I drove home in silence, my hands tight on the steering wheel. Kevin and I had nearly $18,000 in our joint savings account, money set aside for property taxes, car repairs, a small emergency fund. There was no way we could be overdrawn. Unless... I pulled into our driveway and sat there for a moment, staring at the modest two-story we'd bought when we first got married. Kevin's car wasn't there. He was supposed to be working from home, as he had been since his tech company went remote 3 years ago. I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. Inside, I went straight to our home office. Kevin's desk was cluttered with empty energy drink cans and fast food wrappers. His gaming setup dominated the room: 3 monitors, custom-built PC with pulsing LED lights, expensive headset hanging on a stand. On the wall behind his desk, framed photos of us from our early years together, hiking in the Cascades, volunteering at the animal shelter, our honeymoon in Japan. Memories from before the gaming took over. I sat at his desk and opened his laptop. We'd never been the type to hide things from each other, had always known each other's passwords. His browser history showed gaming sites, Twitch streams, Discord chats. I opened our online banking portal. My breath caught in my throat. Our checking account, $37.16. Savings, $212.35. I clicked through the recent transactions. Dozens of withdrawals, ranging from $50 to $500, all to payment services I recognized from Kevin's gaming: Steam, Epic Games, Riot Points, something called Genshin Crystal Top Up, and countless others with names like Game 8 VIP and Power Level Boost. I scrolled back further. The withdrawals had started small, almost a year ago, increasing in frequency and amount over time. In the last month alone, he'd spent over $4,000. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. 11 years of marriage, and I'd had no idea he was draining our accounts to feed a gaming addiction. My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin, grabbing lunch with the guys from the guild. "Home late." The casual tone made my blood boil. I didn't respond. Instead, I started taking screenshots of the bank transactions, forwarding them to my email. Then I began searching through his other accounts. What I found made me physically ill. Credit card statements showed another $12,000 in debt spread across 3 cards I didn't know existed. PayPal transfers to people with usernames like Levelmaster and GearGrinder. A private Discord server where he discussed strategy for hiding purchases from the wife. And most damning of all, emails confirming the refinance of our house 3 months ago, paperwork I'd never seen, with a signature that wasn't quite mine. My hands were shaking by the time I finished. The refinance explained why our mortgage payment had increased slightly. Kevin had told me it was an adjustment in our escrow account. The $85,000 he'd pulled out in equity was nowhere to be found in our accounts. Over a decade of building our life together, and he'd gambled it away in virtual worlds. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I felt a cold clarity descending over me, like I was watching myself from a distance. First, I took photos of everything I'd found. Then I called the bank and reported the refinance fraud. The customer service representative sounded sympathetic but cautious. "We'll need to investigate this claim, Mrs. Mitchell. Your husband did provide all the required documentation." With a forged signature, I said evenly. "Yes, we'll need to verify that. In the meantime, would you like me to place a freeze on the accounts?" "Yes," I said. And I'd like to open a new account in my name only. Next, I called my friend Claire, who happened to be a financial crimes attorney. Sarah, she answered. This is unexpected. Everything okay? No, I said. I need your professional help, not just friendly advice. Can I come over? An hour later, I sat in Claire's home office, watching her face darken as she reviewed the documents I'd brought. This is serious, Sarah. This isn't just addiction, it's fraud, identity theft, possibly embezzlement depending on how he obtained these credit cards. What are my options? I asked. Claire leaned back in her chair. Several. You can file a police report, which would potentially lead to criminal charges. You can initiate divorce proceedings immediately and include the fraud in your filing. Or you can confront him first, see if there's any possibility of recovery, both financial and marital. I thought about Kevin, about the man I'd married who loved hiking and laughing at bad movies, who brought me coffee every morning and remembered every anniversary. That man seemed gone now, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I want what's legally mine, I said finally. And I want him to understand what he's done. Claire nodded. Then here's what we do. The next day, I went to work as usual, teaching 4th grade with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. During my lunch break, I opened a new email account and sent messages to our mortgage lender, the credit card companies, and the bank, all with the evidence I'd gathered. I filed a formal identity theft report with the FTC. I called our homeowners insurance and car insurance to make sure no policies had been changed or canceled. Kevin came home late that night, as promised. I was sitting at the kitchen table, grading papers as if nothing had changed. Hey, he said, dropping his keys on the counter. Sorry I'm late. Guild meeting ran long. No problem, I said, not looking up. There's leftover pasta in the fridge. He heated up his dinner and sat across from me, scrolling through his phone as he ate. I watched him from the corner of my eye, this stranger wearing my husband's face. How many nights had we spent like this in the past year, me working, him mentally elsewhere, neither of us really present? I finished grading, straightened my papers, and went to bed without another word. For the next week, I maintained the facade. I went to work, came home, made dinner. Kevin seemed oblivious, perhaps relieved that I wasn't asking questions about money or his time. Meanwhile, I executed Claire's plan methodically. I moved half of my latest paycheck to my new account before Kevin could access it. I gathered all our important documents, birth certificates, car titles, insurance policies, and stored them in a safe deposit box Claire helped me open. I documented every unusual transaction I could find, creating a paper trail that stretched back months. On Friday, exactly 9 days after discovering the fraud, I received an email from our mortgage lender. They had completed their initial investigation and confirmed that the refinance paperwork contained a forged signature. They were freezing the remaining funds, about $27,000 that Kevin hadn't yet spent, and initiating their fraud protocols. At the same time, one of the credit card companies called Kevin directly. I was in the kitchen when his phone rang. I couldn't hear the full conversation, but I saw his face drain of color. He ended the call and sat motionless at his desk for nearly 10 minutes. Then he began frantically checking accounts on his computer. I continued chopping vegetables for dinner as if nothing was happening. Finally, he came into the kitchen. Sarah, he said, his voice strange. Did you contact the bank? I set down my knife and turned to face him. Yes. Why would you do that? His voice rose slightly. Those were our accounts. Were they? I asked calmly. Because from what I can tell, they became your personal gaming funds a long time ago. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd once found endearing. It's not what you think. I can explain. Explain the $18,000 missing from our savings? Or the 3 maxed out credit cards I never knew about? Or maybe you can explain how my signature ended up on refinance paperwork I never saw? Each question was delivered in the same calm tone I used with difficult parents at school conferences. Kevin's face cycled through shock, guilt, and then something else, a flicker of calculation that confirmed what I already knew. He wasn't sorry for what he'd done. He was sorry he'd been caught. It got out of hand, he admitted. But I was going to fix it. I've been working on some investments. You mean gambling? I interrupted. On games? It's not gambling, he snapped. It's strategic investment in digital assets. Some of these items appreciate in value. I almost laughed at the absurdity. And yet our bank accounts depreciated. Curious how that works. He took a step toward me, hands outstretched in a pleading gesture. Sarah, please. I know I messed up. But we can fix this together. I'll sell some of my inventory. I'll get help. Part of me wanted to believe him. Part of me remembered the man who had held my hand through my father's funeral, who had painted our bedroom 3 different shades of blue until we found the perfect one, who had once been my partner in everything. But that man was gone. There is no way fixing this, I said quietly. You stole from me. You committed fraud in my name. You betrayed everything we built together. His face hardened. So what, you're just going to ruin me? Report me to the police? That's how you handle this? No, I replied. I already handled it. The mortgage company has confirmed the fraud. The credit card companies are investigating. Our joint accounts are frozen. And everything else, well, you'll find out soon enough. Kevin stormed out of the house that night. I changed the Wi-Fi password and went to bed. The next morning, Claire helped me file for divorce and a temporary restraining order based on the financial abuse. By Sunday evening, Kevin had been served papers at his friend's apartment where he'd apparently been staying. The following weeks unfolded with a precision that surprised even me. The mortgage fraud investigation expanded to include the credit cards and bank accounts. Kevin hired a lawyer, who quickly advised him to cooperate fully after seeing the evidence against him. Claire connected me with Marcus, a digital forensics specialist who could track Kevin's gaming accounts and digital wallets. What Marcus found exceeded even my worst suspicions. Kevin had been involved in a complex network of buying, selling, and trading virtual items across multiple platforms. Some transactions were legitimate, but many violated the terms of service of the games, selling accounts, power leveling services, and pay-to-win schemes that skirted gambling laws. Worse, he'd been using our home equity to finance it all, convinced he could turn a profit if he just invested enough. It's actually impressive in a disturbing way, Marcus explained during our meeting with Claire. He created an entire shadow economy for himself. The problem is, it's fundamentally unstable. These games change their rules constantly. Items that are valuable one day become worthless the next. Can we recover any of it? I asked. Marcus hesitated. Some. The accounts themselves have value. The rare items, character levels, that sort of thing. But it's nowhere near what he put in. Maybe 20 cents on the dollar at best. Claire made notes. This strengthens our case for the divorce settlement. He can't claim these were legitimate investments when the platforms themselves prohibit most of what he was doing. 2 months into the divorce proceedings, I received an unexpected call from Detective Reyes with the Financial Crimes Unit. Claire had insisted on filing a police report, though I'd been hesitant to escalate to criminal charges. Mrs. Mitchell, Detective Reyes said, we've been investigating your husband's activities, and we've found something interesting. It appears he wasn't acting alone. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? There's a group operating across several states, targeting people with gaming addictions. They recruit them, help them set up these elaborate trading networks, show them how to max out credit and home equity. Your husband was both a victim and eventually a perpetrator. I sat down, trying to process this information. You're saying Kevin was scammed? Initially, yes. But then he became part of the operation, recruiting others. We've identified at least 7 other individuals he brought into the scheme over the past year. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just addiction. Kevin had knowingly drawn others into his spiral, profiting from their destruction as his had profited from ours. Any lingering sympathy I might have felt evaporated in that moment. What happens now? I asked. We'd like you to testify. Your documentation of the fraud, combined with the digital evidence we've gathered, could help us shut down the entire operation. I agreed without hesitation. The case would take months, possibly years, but I'd be there every step of the way. Not just for myself, but for every spouse, every family who'd been devastated by this scheme. In the end, Kevin agreed to a divorce settlement that gave me the house, what remained of our equity in it, my retirement accounts, which thankfully he hadn't managed to access, and full restitution of the stolen funds, though I knew I'd likely never see most of that money. He faced charges for wire fraud, identity theft, and as part of a criminal conspiracy. His lawyer negotiated a plea deal, 3 years in prison, 5 years probation, mandatory counseling for gambling addiction. I saw Kevin only once more before he went to prison, at the final hearing. He looked smaller somehow, diminished without his gaming empire. I never meant to hurt you, he said quietly as we waited outside the courtroom. I met his eyes. But you did. And not just me. All those other people you recruited. He looked away. I got in too deep. They promised I could make it all back if I brought in others. It seemed like the only way out. There's always a way out that doesn't involve destroying the people who love you, I replied. You just chose not to take it. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I sold the house. Too many memories, too much betrayal within those walls. I used what little equity remained to make a down payment on a small condo closer to my school. The criminal case against the larger operation proceeded, with Kevin's testimony helping to identify the ringleaders. Ultimately, 14 people across 5 states faced charges, and over 30 victims were identified. Detective Reyes called me the day the main perpetrators were sentenced. 8 to 12 years for the organizers, she said. Your evidence and testimony were crucial. You helped a lot of families today. That evening, I sat on the balcony of my new home, watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with a notification from a support group Claire had encouraged me to join, spouses of gambling addicts. I'd been reluctant at first, but had found unexpected strength in their stories, in knowing I wasn't alone. The message was from a woman named Tara. Just wanted to thank you for speaking at last week's meeting. My husband finally agreed to counseling after hearing your story. You're changing lives. I smiled, a genuine smile that reached my eyes for the first time in months. I hadn't planned on becoming an advocate when I first discovered Kevin's betrayal. I'd only wanted what was mine, what was right. But sometimes things work out in ways you don't expect. My phone buzzed again. A text from Claire, dinner tonight? New Thai place opened downtown. Absolutely, I replied. I'll meet you there at 7. I set down my phone and took a deep breath of the evening air. The future stretched before me, uncertain but unbound. My own again, to build as I chose, one quiet day at a time. Something new, something that couldn't be gambled away or squandered in a virtual world. Something that was just mine.